Hi, everybody, and welcome to Creating Your Inspired Life conversational series, where I interview dear friends and colleagues who are really, truly living inspired lives. And Creating Your Inspired Life is an 8-week program that guides conscious leaders into living really, truly inspired lives. And each week we are talking to somebody about how to carry that through into your life and really reach your highest levels of leadership in your life. All right. So our guest today is Jen Coffel. She's a brilliant speaker and teaches others how to speak, and a great business coach, able to really inspire people in seeing how to take their business up to the next level, and very practical and straightforward thinking, but inspiring ideas that really serve everybody. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Ron. It's great to be here with you.
Good. Yeah. It's a fun post-Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah. Perfect.
So, I know you've gone through my work with me, and just I'm watching you out in the world, just doing really amazing, inspiring things. So just want to kind of chat with you on the process and how you've integrated into your life and all of that sort of thing. So I guess I would start with, we're talking a lot about stories, and I'd like to, why don't we start with start with how we met. Yeah, that's really thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I remember we were at a business event. There's probably like 200 people there, and just by, divine happenstance, we sat next to each other at that event. And then we both ended up deciding to register for a small retreat. I think it was very intimate, 6 or 7 person retreat. And so at that retreat, we were sharing, each of us going around the circle over the course of 3 days, masterminding about our goals, our visions, and what we wanted to create, and helping each other to create that. And
yeah.
So you saw me, I think, it was on the day 3. I remember you coming up to me, and we were getting something to drink. It was like a little break time. And you said to me, you have really huge goals, big goals, and I could totally see you achieving those, but I wanted to just bring something to your attention. And I said, okay. And we had enough of a trusted relationship at this point for you to speak truth to me. And you said, I noticed that you don't breathe. He's like, well, you breathe, but I don't think you take one deep breath. You breathe from here up.
Uh-huh.
And you said to me, I think I would really love to teach you about breathing and how breathing could help you, because I'm concerned that if you don't learn to breathe and get to the root of what's going on with that, then whatever you create, even if you were to create this big vision that you have, you're not going to be able to sustain it, or you might sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very powerful conversation. And I remember not having any awareness to the fact that I wasn't breathing. And so when you asked me that and said that to me, I tried to take a deep breath, and I literally couldn't. It was I was just very conditioned my entire life since I was 5, which we can talk about this, got into what created that situation that I was not taking deep full breaths. But that's what I remember. I don't know what your memory is of it. Maybe you can give your perspective, but
that's sort of bold on my part. I'm excuse myself at this point. No, that's good though. Yeah, it's hard when you see somebody really wanting to create this incredible life, but they aren't, dealing with certain issues that you see will sabotage their life later on. I guess I've just seen it so frequently in my life. So, yeah.
You have a lot of awareness about that, right? Because that's your work, life's work. And and it was a total blind spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I had no idea. And so I honestly, I'm super, in spirit of Thanksgiving, I'm super grateful that, after all these years, I think I was 48 years old when you approached me, and we were at that meeting. I think that's right. And I want to just say thank you, seriously, for, being willing to, say something, because I have worked with many people over many years, and no one had ever really confronted me on that and pointed that out. So I'm super grateful that you did, because it truly has been a transforming experience working with you. And my life feels and looks extremely different from where it was when we were standing and having that conversation. So
What, talking about that, what was your story before, and how was it limiting you?
well, it was a blind spot. I didn't realize how much I was being limited, to be quite honest. So like what we ended up, engaging and working together, because I was like, "Ooh, this is a problem. I can't breathe. Why can't I breathe?" And so I got really interested in just learning how to breathe and just recognizing that from a health perspective, like that can't be healthy. And that was kind of my first introduction to like the recognition, like that blind spot, and then becoming aware of it. Now I'm aware of it. Now I want to do something about it. And honestly, I remember you working with me on just breathing and me having to work on that. And it was really difficult. I mean, it reminds me of something that's like starting a weight loss program that, it's like really hard. It was hard work for me. I think it took 8 months before I could take a full deep breath without it feeling like work. I mean, I think my diaphragm was so atrophied since I hadn't taken a deep breath since I was 5. So what came to the root that we ended up, working on quite a bit was, I grew up my whole life, honestly, was a lot of abuse, and the abuse started at 5 years old. And what's interesting, and this is something also that we had a lot of conversation around, is when I was 17, I came into a faith, with God. And my background is, from more of a Christian faith perspective. And in the teaching there, I had made agreement with this verse that I had read, that the old is gone, the new has come. Like, and I said to myself, well, I don't have to deal with all of this abuse in my childhood. I could just like cut it off, so to speak, because now I'm this new creation, and I don't have to deal with that. And so what I discovered in working with you, what I became really aware of, is that I was completely, there's 4 parts of us, right? There's the intellectual mind part of us, there's the emotional part of us, the physical part, and the spiritual part. And I was literally getting through my entire life at 48 years old into just really operating in 2 places, and fit in the spirit. Like I was very much, operating out of the spirit, and then operating out of my head. Like you have always said to me for years in this journey that I'm in my head, because that has been my coping strategy. Like that's how I dealt with life. That's how I went through life. I just like operated in my head and then operated in the spirit. And I completely ignored the emotions. I completely ignored like that part of who I am as a person. And I really ignored my physical health. Like I really just walked in my head and in my spirit, and that was it. And so the awareness of like ignoring those 2 things, and then becoming and making a decision to not ignore them anymore and to heal them, it had tremendous transforming effects on my life. And honestly, like one of the things I remember, and interrupt me if you want to share, I could just keep talking, but there's a speaker in me just, but one of the things that like I remember thinking about or recognizing and being shocked by, was as I started to breathe deeply and take these full deep breaths, I would just like tears would just stream out of my eyes, and there was no story attached to it. And I didn't even know what the stories were. Mm-hmm. It was like the power of breath. And now like for you, like you've taught me a lot about, gosh, I'm getting emotional about breath. Right. And I was like, there we go. I took a deep breath. And it's like how breath is like really connected to our spirit, like the spirit is breath, like it's like our most intimate connection to spirit is also breathing. Mm. And, I had never put those things together. And now it's, you've taught me too, like your breath when it comes to meditation or anything in life, everything. The answer is always breathe. It's like the one thing I've gotten from me. Everything is always breathe. But it's so true, because like in breath, like the spirit is alive, and like you're breathing, it's just so many things that come from that place. So when I would see myself, just start to release, and like tears and stuff would come just from breathing, I knew that there was a lot of work. And in my head, I knew all the abuse I'd been through. So I knew there was a lot of healing to do. It was just that I had made this decision. I didn't need to go through that healing or deal with that stuff. Like I was fine without dealing with it, but that's not truth. And you really helped me to, come to the awareness and the recognition and the willingness to And it was hard. I mean, I do have to say, I was scared. It was hard. It was, 48 years of ignoring a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be dealt with. And then kind of revisiting all of that. And even just handling emotions, like how do you handle emotions and how do you experience? Like I had never learned how to handle emotions in a healthy way, to acknowledge them, to express them, to release them. I just stuffed them. That's how I managed it. I just stuffed them, ignored them, and just kind of through my sheer determination and willpower, which I have a lot of, I just moved forward, which
that's one thing that amazed me about you is here you are, using half of your energy to stuff things and control things and not accessing most of who you are and what you are. And yet you were still creating this amazing life. And that's what was so impressive. It's like, you're driving down the freeway with your foot on the brake and foot on the gas. And it's like, well, if you're doing this well with that foot on the brake, let's take that foot off the brake. Let's acknowledge, express, and release the emotions and heal that backlog so that you're not at the effect of that. And
that statement you just made was completely about the car, was something I can totally remember. Mm-hmm. And when you said that to me a few years ago, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I totally feel like that. I felt that like physically inside of me. When you said it, really resonated with me. I hadn't recognized another blind spot. I hadn't recognized I was living that way. But then as I heard you say that, I thought, totally, I'm living like that. Like I feel that physically. I feel that.
Right. Yeah.
And it was appealing, the idea of like, yeah, that would be nice. what is this break that I can release? I'd like to release that.
Well, I don't think people realize the stress they're putting themselves through, their body, their whole life through. But
I look back at like videos of me, pictures of me in 3 years younger. And I think I'm even like, let's say 10 years ago, I actually feel like I look older then than I do today because of like what I was doing to myself. Like that, I was just worn out. I was completely worn out. Yeah.
And that's really comes to that point that I first introduced you to is if yes, you can reach for this and create this amazing platform, create this amazing organization, but you won't be able to sustain it if you're not taking care of yourself and able to stay in your power. And I guess I've watched that so often where somebody creates something really incredible, but then it all crashes down around them because they just haven't created the foundation within themselves to sustain it as it goes forward. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Question I have is, through that transformation, were you able to see how you took the challenges that you were going through or had before and really turned them into what empowered you? In other words, those problems turned to opportunities kind of idea?
Well, what's interesting about that, I mean, that's come up in many different ways, but even just in the last month, you and I happened to be at the same event, and there were a bunch of entrepreneurs there that were, we were teaching them neurolinguistic programming, use of voice, use of body language, use of stage, like the delivery of a signature talk. And they were, the problems that I had no awareness of, that you brought to my attention, when here is a way that it's showing up now. Like I had all these issues and challenges and need for healing that I had no awareness that I even had. And I went through that experience with you and had that transformation. And here I am in an event last month, and I'm looking around at all these people, and I'm thinking all these people, like 80% of them need you. like the awareness of like, and I thought about that. Like, I wonder if years ago when I was living the way I was living and just that sheer determination and, just not really dealing with my emotions or my physical self, would I have had the same feeling? Like I felt a sense of responsibility, when I was there with those entrepreneurs and hearing them like share their origin story, which we talk about that as like a life-altering event. Like what's that life-altering event that has occurred in your life that has put you on the path to do what you want to do with your work? And then as they started to share things and we started to tap in and we had them kind of going within, like they were unearthing some traumas that they hadn't even had awareness that had happened in their life, so we're watching before our eyes, people like discovering traumas and talking, and then people talking about real serious traumas. And like, you could tell the healing had not taken place. Like these were very fresh wounds that even though they may have occurred decades ago, were still not healed. And so, like that's an example, I guess, that immediately comes to my mind of like how it's still showing up now. And then also thinking about like, I want to do something about that. And not that I'm the one per se that would be, I feel like it would be you that would be, more so like, because that's your work, mine is just now more the willingness to recognize and be willing to be the voice that says, hey, I see this. Like when you were standing with me at that event, and, that this is something that if you don't heal this, like I could help you develop the most amazing signature talk and the most amazing business and all this, growth in your business. But if you don't get this healing, we're going to do all this and you're going to burn out. And I've seen it happen, and I never, and as I've been having these conversations because I have felt that sense of responsibility and the need to do that. Like I've had a lot of those people that were at that event say to me, I wasn't even aware. And yes, I'm going to start pursuing healing. I think some of them are choosing to work with you. And I'm so excited about that because I really think that that's a way that right now it's showing up, is just like kind of like paying it forward, like you did it for me and I want to do it for others because my goodness, like I want them to really, whatever they feel like they were created to do and want to do and have success doing, like I want them to be able to sustain it. I want them to not sabotage. I want them to not burn out. I want them to be successful.
Yeah, it was difficult watching, these people getting up, and first of all, they're digging around and trying to find out where that wound is, and then they discover it, and then they have to get in front of a bunch of strangers and talk about it. And they're just raw wounds, not not healed.
Not things they should be speaking about in the signature talk. Like that we share scars, not wounds, but realizing that there's all those wounds there, like kind of leads to the bigger thing about their whole, success journey, right? Like them being successful and really achieving what they want to achieve.
Yeah, it's you've got to take that origin story and turn it into a transformational, empowering story, one of what has really taken them through that challenge and into this next level, not having them still caught and being at the effect of that past. So, yeah. So how's this work been affecting your personal life?
Some major ways. So, well, one.
Share what you care to.
Yeah, it's really shooken up my life, but I have to say, it's kind of like an awakening, and I've made some of the hardest decisions of my life, but they've brought so many of the greatest transforming experiences. So like just real personally, like I went through a divorce last year after 27 years, and I had, I wasn't really, like that was a major change. I have 4 children, and so making that decision was huge. And it was really, I think a huge, in a lot of ways, came out of this work. And I mean, not to say that anybody that does this type of work is going to end up with that decision, because that's not the case. And I know that you are a huge supporter of marriage, so that's not the case. But for me, that was where that led. Had just a lot of awareness around, and I was kind of walking down the same pathway that my mom had went down, and just got a lot of awareness about that. Like my mom and my dad and my best friend all died a few years ago, and they all died within a year and a half of each other. And they were all working full time like me, and at the time, and they all had end stage cancer, and they were all gone really quickly. And they were all in marriages where they were really unhappy. And that like awareness for me was really strong, and understanding, like I'm recognizing and seeing myself going down the same path. And as coming from the Christian faith, like that was a place I felt really trapped in. And then my relationship with God, and like what was that relationship with God? Like there was a lot of healing that needed to be there, and a lot of things that, I was making agreements with in terms of what was true that really wasn't truth about how, what God thinks of me, and his love for me, like all that, like, and just spiritually, like I feel like I got a lot of breakthroughs. I felt like in my marriage, in my relationship with God, in my work, it was like that gas and brakes at the same time, like such a strong desire to have a really healthy, beautiful marriage that, like one that like God, designed marriage to be, wanting to have this incredible business where I'm making this impact on all these people, and then wanting to have this very intimate relationship with God. But yet I was so disconnected to like basically half of myself that when I got connected and really experienced and came into truth in many ways, and that brought a lot of freedom. I mean, I had to make some really difficult decisions, but now it's like I wake up in the morning. Like the difference now is I wake up in the morning with so much peace. I go to bed with so much peace. Like sometimes I'm so happy, like I just get tears in my eyes because like I'm getting tears thinking about it right now. Just the feeling of joy and freedom and just, I feel clean. That's probably one of the, I'm sorry. I just feel like really healthy. And for the first time in my life, I feel really healthy, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. My mind is quiet. And I feel like, anything is possible. And I just have like an ocean of love inside of me that I want to give away and reciprocate and experience back. So
good.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. As you know,
got me really in touch with my emotions. Sometimes they just flow.
You probably realize that I'm fairly comfortable with emotions.
Yes.
So let's shift it a little bit in terms of how has that played out in your professional life?
Oh man, I think that, well, there's played out in a lot of different ways. Like one way is, and this is just more in general, and it of course affects every part of my life, including professionally, but I think that I was so really ultimately not really happy in my life that I was living in the future all of the time. Like my mind was always somewhere else. And in my head, I was always somewhere else because I really wasn't dealing with what I was not happy with. And so like my joy would come from somewhere else, right? Like in putting myself somewhere else. But now, like, I feel more than ever, I'm just really living in the present and experiencing just fully being present. And there's a lot of power in just what that feels like in that experience of just being fully present and recognizing like the only moment we have is this very moment right now. Yeah. And so you've taught me a lot about like levels of consciousness and really my desire, to live in a very conscious, high level conscious living. And what does that look like? And it's really about like, kind of the world view, not just my view and my family's view and my community's view, but like a world view. Mm-hmm. And so my mind is, my heart and my thoughts and my spirit, I think are all like kind of coming from that perspective, like, but being fully present. So I know that might be, for me, that seems like it's a little hard to articulate when I'm trying to express, but that's the best I can do with that at the moment. And then professionally, I've been able to create and also trust that like what I want to create, like, for example, like now I have really become clear on what my passions are. Like I love spiritual things. Like if I had all the money in the world, I would do the eat, love, pray thing and just go and explore every, like spiritual. I just love the world of the spirit. Like I just love it. And I would love to explore more of that. And I love exploring and also like ushering other people through that experience. And so combining that with also like, I love beautiful, luxurious spa experiences. Like I just love nurturing and I love the spa and I love beautiful things. And so with my work in terms of working with entrepreneurs and business and, speaking and helping them create a signature talk that really attracts their ideal clients and helps them build their business in a really strong, effective way. I discovered like this coming year that I can do all of that together. So I'm going to be hosting 4 retreats. And this idea I know would not have came had I not been the place I'm in. But I want to do 4 retreats a year. I've recorded in really beautiful, awesome, gorgeous places where I bring entrepreneurs together, help them to like spiritually go within, right, and guide them through that process, like with your support and, you know, and others, to like really just help them go within, to like bring that brilliance out of them, and then have them leave in 3 days, like busy professionals leave in 3 days from this incredible experience, having spa services, getting like guided meditations, all this like incredible stuff, to be able to like walk away with a signature chalk done, you know, some video and so photography for them to be able to put on their socials that will align with that can help them monetize and grow their business. And man, I could do those 4 retreats a year and make what I'm making and all these other work I'm doing, you know, it's just in those 4 retreats a year, you know, and I could work like just 12 days do that, you know, so like the ideas, the freedom, the joy, the feeling like that. I would always, like, as a type A person, I have this like internal pressure I would be putting on myself. Like, I feel like I've released that. Like, I don't feel that internal pressure. Like, I still have goals and things I want to create, but it's not that hard, like brake and accelerator feeling at all anymore. Now it's just like that brake is off and I get to just go down the road, and it's different. Totally feels different.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fantastic for sure. So just, I know I'd like to get kind of back. Well, one point I want to make is, what I'm excited about as I hear you is you really captured the essence of what I talk about, you know, discovering and knowing your highest intention, and how then everything in your life can come into alignment in support of that higher intention. And an aspect of that I think is so important, and that is, with that higher intention, with that compass heading, that clear compass heading, you begin to recognize whatever comes into your life, if it doesn't support that higher intention, you ignore it and let it go. And whatever does come in that does support that higher intention, you embrace it, integrate it into your life, and use it to support your dreams. And you're doing that so well. And it's just great to watch that going on. So good. I'd like to get back to the stories, though. It's like, how do you talk a little bit more about how you use stories in your work?
Well, stories are what inspire, right? Stories, you know, if you think about some of the best speakers you've ever heard are people that, you know, they are great storytellers, you know. I mean, even in singing, right? You hear, like, in The Voice, I love that show because I love watching people like get to, like, that show can bring me to tears, watching somebody that was like created to do something and they get discovered and then they get to do it full time. It's so beautiful. And, you know, even in singing, like, storytelling is, you know, the connection. It's a way that we connect as humans, you know, to one another. Super inspiring. Lots of lessons can be taught in a story way more effectively than just straight teaching. I share that with entrepreneurs all the time. Like, if you're out there speaking and you're getting a lot of like, thank you, Ron, that was great information, you're really just teaching, you're teaching more process, and you're not really being effective in really creating a desire to have further conversation with you, which is essentially what leads to revenue. So story is, like, for example, when we teach to doing a signature talk, 50% of that talk is stories. You know, it's like your own personal origin story, and then a story for each principle that you share. And it's really, stories is a huge piece, and knowing how to tell a story is key. A lot of people will share and they'll tell a story, but they do it in a fashion that's like series of events. Well, and this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. And that's not a story. A story's got a character, it's got an emotion. You know, there's a, and I'd be happy to share the stages of the story, but there's stages of story and a way to put that together. And story is where it's the tool that we can use to really effectively communicate, to really effectively teach, to really attract people to us, to inspire others to take action. And like in your work, and what I think about for myself in terms of, I mean, we could kind of get stuck in stories that we make, about our own lives and about ourselves that are not, or stories that we get stuck in that happened to us as a child, or, through our lives, traumas, things that have occurred that we create stories around and tell ourselves, things that end up keeping us in places that we ultimately don't really want to be.
Well, I think that's a really good point, because in my work, I find, I'll listen to somebody's story in the beginning, but then it just becomes part of their trap that holds them into that being at the effect of the past. And so it's really great to acknowledge that story and share it, but it's also equally important, as we kind of, I think we mentioned it earlier, to heal whatever is, raises its head in telling that story, and really turn that story into a transformational experience, rather than just telling the old story and reinforcing unsupportive ways of thinking and patterns of life. And so, it is that transformational opportunity that comes within that storytelling. And so I'm excited about what you were talking about with your 4 retreats, because it really, I can see where working with somebody, where they're, first of all, helping them really dig down and look deeper at what the true story is, where the real snags are in their life, and what really held them back, and what they're willing to look at and heal, and turn that story into one of, it's almost like taking the worst that's come to us in life and transforming it into what supports us in offering our best to the world. And I can see in those retreats where you really, you're bringing people into a different level of consciousness, you're getting them breathing, you're getting them looking deeper, it's safe, it's comfortable, but they're going to be able to see that story and see the potential in that story, and really, that's what they're going to be marketing, is the transformation of that story, and what they bring to the world as a result of their personal transformation, and inspiring others to engage in that transformation. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's 2 pieces of that, right? There's these stories and things that have happened in our lives that happened to put us on a path, I believe. Like, I think all things work together for the good, right? Like, even the traumas and things that have occurred in our life, like being able to look and find the things to be grateful for about that experience. And then there are those events that have occurred in those situations that we've been through that have actually positioned us and put us in the perfect place to be able to help others and that are going through that. Like, there's so many people I know as entrepreneurs end up doing work because of what they went through, right? It's a huge part of it. So there's that piece that's really important. But then there's this other piece that we were talking about around all the other stories that maybe weren't stories that have fed into why you're doing the work you're doing, but there are things and experiences that you've been through in your life that also need healing. Like, there's 2 pieces there, right? There's one that's kind of what's got you on the path to do what you're doing. And then there's all this other stuff. Well, for me, there was all this other stuff that really has nothing to do with the work I'm doing. However, I absolutely needed to still heal those things that have happened so that I am free and can, not be limited in what I can actually create and do from a healed place versus a not healed place.
Yeah, I really see people scrambling to create their platform, and that's great. We need all these different things. You have to have a book and a talk and a product and all of those different things. But I see them building that platform without putting in any sort of foundation. And that's really what you've gone through, is you've created a substantial foundation that you can rely on, whatever you create, that'll hold it in place without it. When you start building structures on sand, they tend to sink after a while. So, yeah.
I think a lot of people, like myself, they don't have awareness. It's a blind spot, like from whatever reasons that have gone into like the story that I had made an agreement with, oh, I don't need to deal with that because now, I'm this new person and, I don't have to go through any of that. And so I think I don't have to deal with that and go through the hard part of like healing. You know what I'm saying? Like we as humans love to avoid pain. It's like a natural feeling. So I just think I think for a lot of people, and to your point, I mean, I think that's the part that I've become very aware of now, having went through it, how like what you're saying is 100% the truth. Like it's the foundation. It's like, there's no limits on what can be created now through me from this space in place, but that was not the case years ago. And I didn't know it though, and I think your willingness to actually bring it to my attention, and then my willingness to respond and say, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Now that I'm aware of it, I really do want to hit these goals and create this and make this impact. And so I gave me more new reasons, I guess, to deal with it and to go through the healing process that I hadn't had before. And so I think what you're doing and the awareness that you're bringing in these conversations, like even this conversation, hopefully it helps some people that may hear it to see like, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, I may be ignoring and just thinking I'll be fine. I don't need to deal with it. When, boy, it's a whole different life when you come from a place of just living in, in a healthy way in all areas of your life versus just a couple.
Yeah. I mean, I see people scrambling for the money but I've worked with people who have millions and even billions of dollars. And the one truth that I hear each of them speak is, well, that wasn't it. The money just did not give them what they were looking for. And, well, I think, money, but you have to come, yesterday, my wife and I had an extended meditation, and really what came out of that is that it's time to introduce a new level of consciousness into the business community. And I see there's certainly, it's not like the river isn't flowing, but I think we need to just step up and say, yes, this is how it should be. This is the new standard for communication, for cooperation, for collaboration. Not only within an organization, but within organizations, and so it can go out into our families and into the society in a broader way also. But yeah, that really struck me that it's just, I see billionaires, they make all their money and then they, at the end they go, okay, well, I'm going to use this money to fix the world. And it's like, what they don't realize is the way they made their money often broke the world. And so now they're just coming around and trying to fix something that they broke, and rather than having lived a life that really supported everybody on the entire journey. And and it just seems silly to have the people who are oftentimes most socially unaware and not very conscious dictating business norms and how we should be. It's just, I feel like, when I look at the millennials, when I look at the women's movement, all of the movements that are going on, they're all saying we matter. How we communicate matters. How we treat each other matters. How we treat the planet. You can't come up with an idea that isn't environmentally sound. And, it's just not tolerated any longer. And you can't come up with a business style or leadership style that doesn't really take care of and nurture bringing out the best in everybody else. And so I think, I think why this came up for me is I see you doing that. I see you introducing a new level of consciousness into your work and into all the people you work with, and not in a way that, that's the odd thing is all the research shows that as you move up in consciousness, as you develop your leadership, you make more money, you get more productivity, and you make more money. So it's not a financial decision to, be a my way or the highway type of leader. It's, really, if you really get your ego out of the way and want the best for your organization, then stepping up and coming into this new style of business that really supports everybody is just seems like the way we need to go.
One of the things that has come up for me and you're talking is it's a transition. When you talk about transformation, it's a transformation of, and this is a feeling that I had a lot before, of efforting. Everything was efforting. Mm-hmm. And now it's like a feeling of expression and like creation, and there's like an ocean of power behind me, it feels like, compared to like efforting and trying to like, it's like now I feel like this force behind me. And before it was like, I was like carrying like Atlas, like the weight of the world on me. And just like through my sheer determination, like efforting and creating success, which I had a lot of success. Like I built 5 businesses of 6 and 7 figures in less than, each of them in different industries and each of them in less than a year. So like I had a lot of success, but I was tired and exhausted and telling myself I was happy when I wasn't really, like I didn't really even know. It's kind of like the frog in the boiling water. Like you don't even know that you're boiling until it's over, and then somebody takes you out and says, how does that feel? Oh, that feels different. That feels good, actually. It's like kind of like, I feel like what I'm experiencing, it's like, now I just feel like everything supports because I'm coming from a place of love, to be quite honest. Like, I think that's what it is. It's like that everything just feels supportive, and I feel like aligned and excited and happy and joyful and all of that. And I didn't feel that way before. And so much, and it's like, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is going to come across the way I want my heart to have it come across, but it's kind of like being the queen. Like, it's like you can just, like, from a place of peace and just a different feeling than being like, not that there's not action, there's tons of action still, but it's a totally different energy about it.
Well, as I listen to you, what I'm hearing is, and it's difficult for me to watch because there's just amazing people out there with amazing capabilities, but I watch them, they're so disconnected from themselves that they do need to struggle. They don't realize, they don't know how to access their power. They don't know how to really access and the best of who and what they are. I mean, neurologically, if you're under stress, your midbrain is chemically disconnected from your higher level of thinking. There's just like, think of it in chemical gates. And those chemical gates just aren't fully open, and you're not accessing your forebrain. You're not accessing higher mind. You're not accessing, when I talk with, folks about the big mind, and it's just, you can't be a great leader from that place of what you were referring to of fear. That's where all the efforting comes from. That's where all the struggle comes from. That's you're so disconnected from yourself and others that you feel like you have to do it all, and you care and you want to do your best, but it wears you down, and you really aren't able to access and share your best because you're just not, it's just not there for you. But yeah, I think that's the transition I'm looking for, is how do we shift from being so disconnected to connected? How do we shift from fear to love?
I think I have something to share about that I've experienced is, as a Christian, I would, like, in my mind and my heart, I would think like God was out there, even though, I was taught the Spirit lives within me. I was really disconnected from that truth. Yeah. And you helped me to start to learn about like meditating, and I would pray, but I had never went through meditations. And you just talked about you and Carol having meditation, and I had never done that before. And I remember you taking me through one for the first time, and I had never experienced that before, and it was amazing. And so then for me now, like, I like desire to do meditations now, and in recognizing in the truth that like everything that I need is actually within me, and because God is within me and I am an expression of God, and there's nothing missing. It's not outside of me. And I was living from a place of, even like when you talk about billionaires and people that have all this, like really tremendous wealth, like thinking that it's something out there that, but it's really, it's in here. And that might be maybe a clue too of what is missing for somebody that's hearing this is, are you out there focused, or are you really looking within here? Which is what I'm really excited about in terms of like doing the work around helping entrepreneurs like to go within and create a signature talk, because the answers are all within you. It's like everything is within us. Like all that we need is within us.
That's certainly at the core of my core of my work and beliefs too. So it's, and it can be difficult. I mean, we've got definitions of things, and definitions of I want to be in control. But if you take a look at what that means to you, it might be really a definition of being out of control.
Totally. And tricking yourself to believe that that's being in control when it's really totally not. Yeah.
There's an old story of I think of 5 blind guys going through the jungle, and they run into this big creature. And so they're each touching a different part of the creature and trying to describe it to the others. And one's touching the elephant's ear, and one's the tail, and one's the leg, and one's the side, and one's the trunk. And they're all, that's kind of what religion can do. It can get caught up in describing what their image of God is, from this really fragmental sort of awareness. And I think for me, my whole sense of, God to me now is not even, there is no separateness. There is, that's a word that just expresses the consciousness of the universe that I'm a part of and can access. And so it's really.
I think that's something really unique about you too, Ron, is that I believe that no matter what faith someone has, I think you are uniquely created to be able to coach them, like your heart and your perspective and your, experiences spiritually. Like, I think it's super comfortable, no matter, I think, whatever faith background you have to work with you. And I think that's a gift that you have that you can offer, that, it's total non-judgment, total just love and acceptance to, wherever people are, and that, in their faith.
Yeah. Well, I've gone through a lot of those stages. So I can't do anything other than absolutely appreciate where they are and support them, and, just seeing what works for them, doesn't, and then modifying it accordingly. And so, So thank you, though. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, any other thoughts or things you'd like to chat about or share? Or?
I guess my just encouragement to anyone that's listening, that if, any of this resonates with you, to encourage you to, like, I guess, respond, and be willing to do the work, because what's on the other side is making me emotional again. It's just fantastic. It's really like a feeling of being alive, like every cell of your body being alive.
Yeah, to me, I mean, of course, I kind of guide people on this journey, so I've done it so often it doesn't look scary. It just looks like a fun adventure.
Right. Well, it's real scary for the people on it, but you are a good guide for that. Like, you do make it. Not as scary.
The worst case scenario is people end up loving themselves more. That's the worst scenario. I've never seen anything else but that.
So true. It's so true. And I do, like, I have a very healthy love for myself that I had never ever had before.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of gratitude as a result of that.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on doing such a great job in your journey. Sure. So.
Thank you for being such a great guide.
Okay. So I know how much you offer people. So I would love to give you an opportunity how can somebody get in touch with you if they want to learn more about speaking or your guidance in terms of business development, that type of thing?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's on the screen, Jen Coffel. So just you send a message to Jen at jencoffel.com or go to jencoffel.com. And that's a great way to just connect with me and reach out to me, and I can send you a little questionnaire and get to know you better so we can make the most of our time when we talk. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody that's looking to grow their business or looking to develop a signature talk, or you would like to go on a really fun retreat next year and get your talk done in a few days, and also like really experience the spiritual piece that we're talking about alongside of like doing awesome business work that can help you, generate a lot of leads for your business and grow your business. So,
well, I think it's time for that movement to shift how we do business, or come from and take care of ourselves, to take care of each other and the planet. And yeah, so I'd love to see your work shifting more and more fully into that direction. So that's great.
Me too. I'm so excited. It's going to be so fun.
I certainly see that and agree. So, well, thank you so much, Jen. I'll a little closing here, but I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and share so fully. And you're an inspiration to many, and I love that.
Deep gratitude for the impact that you've made in my life, and as a result of like all the work that you've done and your giftedness, you truly are extremely gifted at what you do. And I could not recommend anyone that I can't even think of anybody that's as gifted at doing this work as you are. So it's my pleasure to be here.
Okay. So, if any of you have been inspired by this conversation Jen and I have been having, and you want to find out more about creating your inspired life for yourself, you're welcome to touch base with me at ronstotts.com. You can set up a inspiring life session with, complimentary session with me, and I'd love to chat with you and kind of take a look at where you are and where you want to get to and what's the most supportive way we can get you there.